Welcome, Zehra. How are you?
Fabulous. How are you?
Perfect. Amazing.
Mm.
Good
It's so
answer.
great. It's so great to have you on the show, and
Thank
we're
you.
excited to get to know you a bit and to share you and your story and some of your teachings with our listeners. So thank you
For
so much
sure. I'm
for being here.
excited. Yes, thank you.
Great. So I thought we could maybe start with an introduction. You could tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got started into what you do today.
It's going to be a long story. let's let's summarize.
Yeah.
Um, I got confused in life. I had lots of questions, wanted the answers, looked for the answers, um, got bruised and scraped and got hurt and found the answers in that process and started helping other people find their answers. So here I am,
Mm,
16, actually, no, 17 books later, and uh, and a growing coaching practice and just having fun every single day.
that's
Wow.
great.
I love the topic confusion. Oh, this is one of my favorite one, to be honest. And Mark knows that,
Yeah.
how this confusion takes us to simplicity, you
Yes,
know.
that's right.
And yeah. So what is your simplicity?
All things are possible. That just cuts across everything. All things are possible. And your intention doesn't matter, your attention matters.
Mm,
The universe ignores intentions. The way I've learned to see it is a matching mechanism, very similar to any search engine. That's what law of attraction is. It's a matching mechanism. It matches us up based on our vibration, not based on our intention, because our vibration is a result of our attention, not intention. And
mhm.
so we get what we give attention to, regardless of where our intentions are. And this is the most confusing thing was for me, is to figure this one little thing out, that my intentions don't matter. Because I don't know if you're like me, but I used to wonder, well, didn't that person understand my intention? How could they get that wrong? Like,
Mm,
I was coming from this place of love and appreciation and doing so much for them. How could this possibly go wrong? And the answer is because the universe is not responding to your intention. And therefore, people are not responding to your intention. Everything in this world is responding to our attention.
So if I can
Mhm.
ask you, so you think that intention leads to expectation, and expectation naturally is like a shadow where we really face those situations when expectation doesn't meet it, or
mhm.
intentions, right? So basically it's already in the base of the way how many of us setting those willings for the future through intentions, because always when the expectation doesn't meet that intention, it turns out as whatever it is, right? It turns out as a sadness or anger or frustration, and that's why we have to make attention instead of intention. Sorry. Just
Well, it's, yeah, I like how you laid that out. Um, I think from my own experience and my life journey, what I found is that intention is desire, whereas expectation is belief. So your intention and your expectation can be in two different places. They're not necessarily the same. When, in fact, when our expectation does become our intention, that's when we close the gap, and that's when we are able to manifest the things that we want. So people use the word expectation very loosely. I expect this to happen. All right, what are your beliefs about it? Because it's just the word I expect this to happen doesn't tell us the full story, because under that word expectation are beliefs, many beliefs, not just one belief. And expectation is the sum total of all those beliefs and how far reaching they are and how much they control us. So that beliefs control where our attention goes. Our intention does not control where our attention will go. Our beliefs control our attention. And therefore, our beliefs control what we expect, even though we may not want it, but we are unknowingly expecting it because we are thinking about it. Anytime you think about something, you're giving it your attention. So if I say I'm worried about something, my intention is on things going well, but my attention is on the possibility that they would go wrong. And that is coming from my belief system. So expectations are a sum total of beliefs.
Nice. So we
So
can
does
put,
it,
sorry,
go
just
ahead.
last question.
Go ahead.
So like in this, so we can put our attention on that actually, that where it comes from, right? If it comes from our desire or it comes from our love and compassion. So those are two different things, right? Because then you go out of that shadow into that state of creator and really put that attention from that place of love.
Love is the highest emotion in the universe. So when we keep ourselves in a place of love, we are lining up with our intentions. But if we are not staying lined up, we get swayed by our belief systems. Because as we live life, we pick up beliefs. I'll tell you a little story. I had organized an event, and for this event, it was a 3-day event, and I went to Costco to pick up stuff. And I love all the sampling stations that Costco has. So I always stop and I pick up the samples, and that's how I find out about new and interesting things to try. So I was at Costco, and there was a big crowd around this station, this sampling station. So I thought to myself, all right, I need to try out whatever this is, because obviously it's very popular. So I want to get what this is. And I had this, Costco buggies, they are massive. So I parked my buggy on the side because there were too many people around the kiosk. And I walked over and I got my sample. I remember it was something to do with chicken. I got my one sample and I came back. And there was actually Gillette blades also had a kiosk on the other side. And this lady who was at Gillette blades, she looked at me as if she was angry with me. And I was confused. I was like, why would you be angry? Like, I only took one sample, I promise. I didn't take more than one sample. Why are you angry with me? And then I must have looked confused because she opened her mouth and she said, you left your handbag in the cart. Someone could have swiped it. And I looked at her and I said, that doesn't happen in my world. And I walked away from her really quickly. So the thing is, if I had said yes to her, now her belief would have become my belief. But I refused to accept her belief. And the thing is, we are not usually, now this level of awareness is where I am today, but I wasn't always there. If people said, this is, this might happen, I was like, yeah. this could happen. I would accept that belief. So we don't even know when we are acquiring beliefs. And as we acquire beliefs, as we give our attention to something, it turns into a belief. A belief is just a thought that you've been thinking, that you've accepted as being true, and now it's stored inside your subconscious mind. That's all there is to it. And so our beliefs control our expectations. And what happens to us is based on our expectations, because what we expect is what we end up giving our attention to. Does that make sense?
It does. It makes a lot of sense. And I remembered my question. I'm proud of myself because I listened to you the entire time and I was still able to retain it. So that's a huge win. So it ties into what you just said, and it's, do we find out what our beliefs are based on when the expectations are not met? So in other words, I say to myself, this is going to be the year that I'm going to grow my business tenfold. So, and so I'm making that intention, right? Like I intend to grow my business 10x, right? And then, I'm gaining some momentum and things are clicking into place, and, we're seeing the numbers are rising, and then things plateau. Does it take to get to that point for you to realize that your beliefs are out of whack, or your beliefs are not in alignment with that expectation? Because if there were not beliefs that counteracted that, then it would just keep growing until you hit your expectation, right? So do we learn about our hidden beliefs? Because that's a big part of it. It's easy to fix something we're aware of, but when the beliefs are subconscious, then we don't even know what's holding us back.
So true. What makes it actually really difficult, Mark, is that our beliefs about one thing can affect our results in another aspect of our life. So like you're talking about business, it's not just your beliefs about your business that are affecting your business growth. Your beliefs about other things could be affecting it, because your beliefs are what are responsible for the creation of your vibration. And your vibration is what brings you whatever happens. All subjects in our life conform to our dominant vibration. So our vibration goes up and down based on all the different emotions we feel during a day. And we are always getting feedback. That's what guidance is all about. Source, or our inner beings, or whatever you want to call it, is always guiding us. And things are happening that are telling us that we need to work on our vibration. If we ignore those cues, then we end up getting a result that we were not prepared for and we did not want. And so we don't have to wait until the business plateaus in order to find out what your beliefs are, because it's not just your beliefs about the business that are affecting the business. You might have a problem in your personal life with someone that you care about. They might be having some issues in their life, and now you're spending a lot of time thinking about their issues and how to help them. You're bringing that energy into your life, and it's going to affect everything, because if it becomes your dominant vibration, it may have nothing to do with your business, but your business will be impacted because you were not able to hold your vibration at a high enough place for your business to keep growing. And this is where the correlations that we have, the energetic correlations that we have in the non-physical world, are very different from the correlations that we create in the physical world. Because in the physical world, if I drop this, this will break. In the non-physical world, if I drop this, this will break, plus something else will also break, because I'm on the vibration of things breaking. And so this is the missing piece that a lot of people don't understand about law of attraction, because they think that, oh, my beliefs about my business are what affect my business. No. Your beliefs about life affect everything in your life. So your business, and conversely, your beliefs about your business can affect your personal relationships. Your beliefs about your business can affect your health. Your beliefs about your business can affect how you're digesting your food. And it seems like these should be not related, but they are all related. So
so where does somebody start?
You start by not using law of attraction like a tool. you start by making it a lifestyle, which means I'm going to think positive thoughts and make sure my beliefs are in the right place about everything. And the easiest way to do that is to not have beliefs about things and just believe that things are always working out for me. All things are possible. Keep it simple. Don't make it complicated. Whenever we make it complicated, we are including things that we don't really need to include in the mix. Make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think one of the things that like always amazed me was when I would have a conversation with a coaching client, and I obviously, you're a coach, so I don't tell them what to do. I don't, that's not my job. It's just to help them to become aware of things that they were not aware of, because they're usually clouded by their own emotions, right? Because they're feeling emotional about what's going on in their life, and that to me is an asset of having a coach, because they can offer you a different perspective because they're not emotionally attached to your problems.
Yes.
But I remember like becoming aware of the fact that I would offer, well, what if different perspective? Well, what if you saw it like this, And the answer would, and like, to me, it would be like a no-brainer, like I would say
Right.
that would come to me so clearly, but to them, they would say, oh, you don't understand. I can't. I just
Exactly.
can't.
Yes.
I can't do that. I
Mhm.
couldn't do that. I can't.
Mhm.
And what and the fun part for me was like, well, yes, that's exactly what I would expect you to say.
Mhm.
Because of your beliefs, you believe you can't.
Mhm.
And that's the only reason why you're saying that you
Yep.
can't, because
Yep.
of your beliefs.
Yeah, that's so true. And so what we can do is we can pick our beliefs and we can let go of all the beliefs that we had in the past and just start new with a new set of empowering beliefs that are going to support what we want to accomplish in life.
Mhm.
And anytime something happens, you use your belief in order to make a decision. So, oh, I can't do that. All right. But then do you believe all things are possible? Because if you believe all things are possible, then that too is possible. So you have a choice now. Which set of beliefs do you want to hang on to? Your new belief that all things are possible, or the old belief that this is not possible for you? Which one are you picking?
Mhm.
And so it involves a little bit of drilling down to say, okay, if all things are possible, then this too is possible, provided you stop negating it.
Mhm.
And so I follow a very simple philosophy. Pick your new beliefs and evaluate everything through those new beliefs. Because if we go looking for our negative beliefs, that's like looking for thousands of needles in thousands of haystacks, because you don't know what your beliefs are. And when you go asking yourself, what are my beliefs about this thing? Only the top 2 or 3 might come to you, but you don't just have 2 or 3 beliefs about things. You have tons of beliefs. You've lived life. And while you've been living life, you've been accumulating information that is all stored inside you.
Right.
So I find that looking for negative beliefs, much harder to do. Unless they show up. Sometimes they show up and we notice them. And when they show up and we notice them, we can do something about it. But there are so many that control our way of looking at things, our perspective, that we are just not even aware of. So just replace them all with a set of new beliefs and off you go.
How can we differentiate beliefs from conditionings? Because I like, also there are beliefs which are already rooted in our DNA from many centuries of humans living on this earth, right? So we just take it as instinct, survivals. There's like many things which we really like, it's in our subconscious. It's not even, it's interesting how those we can rewrite or detach from those.
Well, it's And that's exactly why it serves us to just pick what our new beliefs are going to be. I call it core beliefs. You know what your core beliefs are. And then every time you have to make a decision, you just make a decision based on your new belief systems. And that way, you don't have to go looking for your programming. You don't have to go looking for your conditioning. All of those words are just related to your belief systems. You have acquired those ways of thinking because society had them, your parents had them, you were taught at school, television propagates them. Doesn't matter. I've decided that all of what I lived before brought me here, but I don't want to be here. I want to create something new and fresh. I want to start over. I'm not going to be able to start over if I still use the same parameters and live my life within the same parameters that I did before. So I've selected these parameters. This is the framework of the life I want to create. And every decision needs to be governed by my consciously selected new beliefs until I've used them so many times that they now replace the old belief system and they become ingrained in my subconscious mind. Nothing gets into the subconscious mind without conscious acceptance. Your conscious mind is the doorman to your subconscious. We accept things that our parents tell us, that our teachers tell us, that society tells us, because we don't question it. But if you were like me growing up, I questioned everything. That's why I was the black sheep. I was not accepting of anything. I always looked at things and said, okay, you can't tell me this and then also tell me this. It doesn't, there's no link. And so I was always questioning, always saying, why? No, I won't do it because you just told me this. So now you're telling me this. I'm sorry, it doesn't make sense. And so I was always looking at things that way. And that's why I was looking for the answers, because what I was being told just didn't make sense. On the one hand, you tell me love is the answer to everything. On the other hand, you tell me if I do this wrong, you're going to punish me. Hello? What's going on here?
It's just two different frequencies, to be honest, you know, and then this is how I see it, because if you don't go to the lower frequency, we call it shadow sometimes, you never know how it's to be on that other frequency, which it's like, it's a universal love, it's the highest frequency. But for us to go to find out what is universal frequency, we have to go through the shadow of that humanity or whatever it is. That's how I think, because there is no separateness, right? Everything it is one. It's just beautifully one, but just humanity and people, they want to separate things to make more logic of the things, but there is no logic in that. It's just everything is that one.
For sure, for sure. And like Abraham says, in every particle of wanted, there is unwanted. And in every particle of unwanted, there's both wanted and unwanted. In every particle, in everything, there's that which we want. And this is why the yin yang symbol to me is very meaningful, because of the way it's shaped. In the light part is the dot of darkness. If you focus on the darkness will expand. And in the dark part, there's a little grain of light. And if you focus on the grain of light, it will become the whole. So that choosing of perspective is mainly the decision we make. And that is entirely up to us. But you're right. The only way we know the difference is by experiencing both. Contrast is important. Yeah.
So when you're going through, you're navigating through life and you're realizing the inconsistencies in parenting and teachings from your elders, and I'm curious, just what was their response? Because I went through the same exact thing, and that caused a lot of confusion for me.
Oh, yes.
Because it was like I was feeling one thing, I was knowing one thing, and then I was being told something else.
Yes.
And there was just so many inconsistencies. And then when I raised my voice about that, it was like, well, you're not really in a position to say anything, so just listen to what I have to say.
Yeah. I had exactly the same experience. I think most of us do. And but we have a choice. You see, on the outside, we don't have power because people have control things, aspects of our life that we are not that independent while we are living at home. We don't have control. Teachers control us at school, parents control us at home, society controls us in so many ways. The thing is, they control your actions. They don't control your mind. My parents can control my actions. They can tell me what to do and what not to do, but they cannot tell me what to think. And that is why I was always rebellious. I was not outwardly rebellious. I was rebellious in my mind because I figured out at a very early age that outside rebellion was not going to be helpful.
Yeah. I know that. Yeah, that was exactly me. And what I learned was that you can try to control me, but I'm always going to get away with it. But the struggle for me was, the struggle for me was that I felt bad about that. And that's where it was from belief systems, because the belief was, if you do this, you're a bad person. If you do this, you're a good person. And so the only way I knew how to express myself was through rebellion, and I had to hide that so I could get away with it. But then I ended up feeling bad about it. So when I discovered this philosophy that you're talking about, there was a huge, tremendous sense of relief for me, because it was like, oh, maybe, and I'm still working through that today. I was introduced to it in 2001, and now, it's almost like 22 years later. I'm still working through the idea that my parents have programmed me, and then I took over their job when their job was done, and I continued my own programming based on those things. And I felt bad, about myself and choices that I made. So it's been, but it's been, it's better to understand that, have the awareness of that, and have the tools to be able to do something with it, as opposed to just being a victim of that and just going through life, just like kicking the can down the road, like, oh, well, woe is me. And
absolutely. And that's why, just like you, I kept looking for the answers. Right. And it's not just about finding the answers, because once you have the knowledge does not become skill until you actually apply it. So just knowing intellectually does not lead to actual change in your life. The actual change in your life happens from the application. It's like, like I have all these books, and I have and then the books on my shelves. I have so many books, and I have read so many more, borrowed from libraries and audiobooks and so many books. You read a book and you put it away. What changed? Nothing. So a little bit more than you did before, but your life's not going to change, because you're not, unless you take that book and you use it not like a textbook, but like a manual. And you apply what you're learning. That's when life starts changing. So it's been a long, long journey of experimentation. Some experiments worked, others didn't work. But in the end, I always learned something about myself and how things work.
Well, yeah, and I like that. I like your idea of choosing your beliefs and then sort of running life through those beliefs, as opposed to trying to go deep and, finding all the beliefs that aren't working for you. Because I feel like, and Agris and I have this conversation ad nauseum just about the like intoxicating amount of teachers and philosophies and ideologies and books that are out there, and trying to wrap your head around it and trying to absorb it. And it's like, what I do at the end of the day when I just can't take it anymore? I always go into, okay, well, what do I know for sure works for me?
Yes, exactly.
Like, it's like, it's not about like, let me grab the closest book that I can find. And I know it's in here somewhere. Hold on. I read this like 3.5 years ago. And no, it's like, I know for a fact that I applied this principle to this, and this was the result that I got. So I know that works. So there's you're not going to convince me otherwise.
Well, exactly. So you took knowledge, you applied it, and you developed a skill. And that's the thing. We need to take the knowledge and use it, not just think about it, use it, so that we have our own personal proof. Because the only way your conscious mind will allow new beliefs to be born is when it has evidence that proves that the new beliefs work. Because the mind works on the principle of evidence, proof. If you're not giving
Mhm.
me proof, then I'm afraid and I'm not going forward. Sorry,
Mm,
right? So this is
right.
how we create proof, and we find new evidence that corresponds to the new beliefs that we want to live our life by. And then slowly we reprogram our subconscious with the new beliefs because now we have proof. So it's really important to get that proof.
Mhm.
And a lot of people intellectually understand these things, but don't apply them, so they never get their own proof. And that's why nothing changes.
Right. Yeah. And I'm sure you see that in your work because I've seen
Absolutely.
it in mine, and it's like it's amazing. You can have conversations with people that could literally recite like so much information. Like they could recite the words that teachers have said better than the teachers themselves at some point, but there's still a missing link. And I'm guilty of that too. So I'm certainly not casting judgment. I'm just saying that it's
Well, I
pervasive.
mean, you're right, because I have students who tell me, Zehra, I can complete my sentence. I can complete your sentences. That's how well I know your material. But how come
Mhm.
my life isn't changing? Well, you know the material, but you're not applying it.
Right.
And honestly, you have to be aware, going from one day to another, going from 1 hour to another, going from 1 minute to another. You've got to be aware. If you're not aware, then you'll still let the old programming control you. Like last
Mhm.
night, I was writing an email to someone. Somebody sent me a message, and they were hyperventilating about something, like they were anxious about something. And I started writing the email, and I was going to say, "Don't worry." And then I stopped and I said, yeah, but if you write that, you're activating worry. So stop and find other words to convey what you want to say to this person. So
Right.
then I said, okay, I'm not going to touch worry, because if I use the word worry, I'm activating worry. My attention is on worry, even though my
Mhm.
intention is to help this person stop worrying. So
Right.
that means I've got to state it in a different way to help them shift where their attention is, so that
Mhm.
their attention starts matching their intention, right?
Yep.
So that
Yeah.
level of awareness, I don't have that level of awareness all the time.
Mhm.
And it's the more aware we become of how we are thinking and which beliefs we are activating, the faster we are able to reprogram ourselves.
Mhm.
But if you're not aware, then nothing changes. So
Right.
that's why mindfulness is so important. Everybody talks about mindfulness. The reason mindfulness is so important is because if we are in the now, then we are paying attention to what we are thinking and what result is it going to create. Not result as in physical, I put the car in gear and the car moves forward. No, what is the vibrational result that I'm creating with the thoughts that I'm thinking and the words I'm using?
Mhm.
Right?
You,
That's
you
a
know,
very
it's
different.
that story that you're telling reminds me of a time when I was younger. I used to work at a chicken place called Kenny Rogers Roasters. I don't know if they had that in Canada, or probably Agris is from Latvia, but it was a chicken. They would rotisserie the chickens. It was really popular here.
Okay. Yeah.
And so I worked the front register. That was my job. And the manager came over one day and he said to me, "Now, just so you know, there's a button underneath the register, like for an emergency. If, like, God forbid anything happened, you just press that button. But don't press it." And I was like, all I could hear was press it. Like that's all I heard. And he was, like, and I was like, I know you don't want me to press it, but I didn't even care about it until you brought it to my attention by telling me not to press it. And what do
Yeah,
you think happened?
exactly.
What do you think
That's
happened? I could not control myself. I pressed the
you
damn
pressed it.
button. The alarm sounded. The police came, because that's like if you're being held up. So there's
Yeah,
like,
yeah, yeah,
SWAT
yeah.
cars that showed up in the parking lot, and I'm like, well, I know you didn't want me to press it, but you probably shouldn't have told me not to press it,
Yeah,
because that's all I could
exactly.
focus on
That's right.
afterwards.
That's right. So that's a perfect example of the difference between intention and attention,
Mhm. Right,
right?
right. Yeah.
I just came from a doctor appointment, not for myself, but for my son. He's 12, and they gave me like a manual, like how to raise the kid, like, and there was all this, like, if you have gun, lock it, and all those things, like, and all, as you said, like all those intentions, which what you have to do to protect your child, and like, don't give him alcohol, don't, all those don't things, and
you're activating all
this
of
is this is exactly what I was thinking. Like, before I was reading this manual, it wasn't even coming into my like into my even this consciousness to really even to think about that I should hide whatever and do those things, because I just don't have it, and then you're like, oh, now it brought to my attention those things. And my son as well, I was reading, and was sitting next to me, and he's like, oh, look at this, it's so funny, like it like for him is like a new things, like, oh, like, oh, don't give me alcohol. I was like, do I do it? Like, you don't, but it's just it's so funny how those things actually is wired, right? How it's wiring or attention. Exactly what you're just saying.
Exactly. And this is not something that I learned as a child. Nobody at school taught me this, and I think it's unfortunate, because children don't know the difference. I see so many examples of this. For example, where I live, it snows a ton. So I had one of my neighbors screaming at her little girl, saying, "Don't run on the snow, on the ice, you will fall and hurt yourself." Guess what happened? Of course, the child is going to fall, because now you activated that. And they don't realize it. Instead, they say, "See, I told you so." How many people have had that happen when they were children?
Of course.
Parents saying, "I told you so." Well, that only happened because you told me, you activated it. You activated it in me, and it's activated in you. So we are both focused on the same thing. Of course, it's going to happen. That's law of attraction. But nobody understands it that way. And instead they say, "See, I told you, you should listen to me. See, when you don't listen to me, what happens?" And in that process, you take away the child's guidance, because you replace the child's own guidance system with you, with what you say. And then the child just starts listening to what other people are saying and believes that other people know more than the child does. So that was my story, at least.
Yeah, and that that goes. Agris has made this point many times. It's like you're basically robbing them of their own authority. You're teaching them to seek authority outside of themselves, and then they become 20, 30, 40, 50 years old, and they're still looking to be told what to do because they don't trust their inner guidance system.
I know. It's so interesting. I had this client one time, and she wanted to go on a holiday, but she was caring for her parents, and they were in their 90s. This woman herself was retired. She was caring for her parents, and she was afraid to go for a holiday because she didn't want to go to her parents and ask for permission to go on a holiday. It's like, are you kidding? Like, you're 65, you're going to go ask your parents for permission? She wasn't able to make that decision for herself.
Right. And then even if the parents aren't even still alive anymore, then they just search for someone to replace their parents, like anything but them. As long as I don't have to make the decisions, I don't trust myself, I can't rely on myself.
Exactly, you said it. That's what it is. I don't trust myself because I've never made decisions for myself.
Right.
And whatever parents decide is always right, because of course you focus there, so you make it right. Law of attraction
Right.
is at work. And then you just lose your own ability to make any sort of decision.
Right. So if you would be the person who writes those manuals, how would you write it?
Well, the thing that has happened in our society is that we feel that we have to control everything through regulating it, through making rules and regulations. And because we don't trust people to be able to use their own judgment, really. I mean, that's
Right.
where it's coming from. But unfortunately, that is what they are supposed to do. They are mandated. And if they don't do it, then they get their knuckles rapped by the supervising authorities. So they're really those manuals that are written by medical companies. If you hear the advertisement for anything on TV or on radio, it's got like, you know, here's the benefit in 2 lines, and here are all the problems. And that's like half an hour worth of stuff, right? But they have to make those disclosures because they are legally required to disclose those things.
Right.
And so now we've become a society, a culture, a nation, a world where things have to be mandated and regulated and rules have to be made for everything. So, and that's because we don't trust our own guidance anymore. So
how
I don't
do you get your clients, like, how do you get them to bridge that gap between, you know, when you're teaching, it's got to be so fulfilling for you to teach this material to someone who's never heard any of this before, because sometimes you get like, oh wow, I never thought about it like that, I didn't know that's how things work.
Yeah.
But still, that's not enough, right? Because it's like, yes, you make the awareness, it registers, it feels good, you're all excited, but then you always go back to how you've done things in the past. How, for your clients, do you help them to bridge the gap between like making this realization and then trusting that it actually works in their life, you know, then long enough for it to actually take hold?
Well, I know from my own experience that consistency, daily work is what pays off. You have to, that awareness that we were talking about a few minutes ago, that awareness comes because we are in the work every single day. And so with people who work with me, I touch base with them every single day, 365 days a year. So my group coaching program involves a daily check-in. And that's how people really get results.
Wow.
Because their questions are being answered on a daily basis. They are applying the material, they are thinking about it and applying it. So people get very quick results, very fast results on average. And but however, I am not a proponent of do this and within 30 days magic potion. No, it depends on where you are, how ready you are to let go of your previous thoughts, how ready you are to do things differently. And so you can literally change your life very quickly. My life changed very quickly. For a long time, I wanted to own rental property, and I didn't think it was going to be possible for me. And soon as I turned my thinking around, I bought 5 homes, 5 2-unit properties within 5 years, which now I look at it, how did I do that? Well, what changed? Because my ability to get qualified for purchasing homes didn't change. I didn't win the lottery. So what changed? It's just turning that corner. And when you turn that corner, magically everything comes together. And you know, honestly, I had a wish to own 2 rental properties. I ended up owning 5. I looked at that and said, wow, the universe is amazing at creating things that you asked for. If you just get out of the way, you've got to get out of the way. And that happened for me just because I put it out there And then I didn't think about it again. Because when you spend too much time thinking about the things that you want to manifest, you actually are activating all your negative beliefs. Let me explain something which I think the audience will find really helpful. Every word on the surface has literally countless beliefs attached to it. Every relationship in your life, you've got beliefs about that person. Soon as you say the name of the person, everything that you have lived with that person is activated. That word is a trigger for activating everything. So what happens magically is if you stop talking about something, if you get off the subject, as Abraham teaches us to do, the magic that happens is that you stop activating the beliefs that are underneath it. And you stop activating both the negative and the positive. However, the only reason the thing wasn't happening is because you had more negative beliefs than positive beliefs in the first place. So when you get off the subject, you don't trigger any of your negative beliefs. Voila, it happens. Isn't that interesting?
There are lots of interesting things on this life, right? It's just there are many things, like what really, and I want to just a little bit to come back to that theme of the books. I personally think it's so important for each individual to write sort of their own book. It's not just it's good to read many books. It's good to listen to many experts and to different perspectives and different way how we should, I like this, should approach the life. But it's so important really to write your own book, your own agenda. As you said, it has to go, those beliefs has to adapt with this path, not many other paths.
Totally.
And I think that's important, that everyone is really to really write their own book through the process of awakening, whatever we call it, the process of life, and really establish their own authority. So they don't need to ask parents anymore, can they go somewhere or not?
Right.
Even though parents might persist telling like, you have to ask me, like even I'm like more than 40 and my parents still sometimes like, oh, what you're going to do? It's like, am I 40 or like I'm still in kindergarten? Like
Yeah, that's a very interesting concept. But yes, I agree with you completely. I love that idea. Everyone has to write their own book about how they want to live life. And we really, as humanity, we have to get away from calling things right or wrong, because it's just a matter of perspective. There really isn't any right or wrong.
Right.
And
yeah, I think that when Agris originally had brought that idea up to me a while ago, it was like, it made so much sense, because now you're taking your power back, right? Now you're taking responsibility for your beliefs, for your philosophy, right? And so I got all excited about this idea, and I'm like, that's it. I'm done with everybody else's philosophy. Now it's time for me to like write my own philosophy. But there's great challenges that come with that. And now I realize why most people would not want to do that, because with that comes great responsibility. And if you're not used to having that kind of responsibility, it's like uncharted territory. But I also like what you said before when you were talking about, well, how do we do that? One baby step at a time, like every single day, 365 days a year, moment by moment.
Yep, absolutely. And also to add to that, it's not stuck in stone because you're evolving.
Right. Right.
It's going to change. Your philosophy is going to change as you grow and become more.
Right. That's funny that you say that, because when Agris and I decided to do the podcast in the first place, the reason why we hadn't done anything like that in our own lives was because you don't ever feel ready. Like it's just one more book, I just really need to nail down life, and then I could present myself as the expert that I want to be, you know? And what we realized was that, you know what? We're just going to get it going, and we're going to expose our vulnerabilities, and we're going to say, like, this is a podcast about exploring spirituality and empowerment, and everything is subject to change. You know, like literally, like from episode 1. And last night I had a conversation with somebody that we're bringing on as a guest, and she was like, "Oh, I read, you know," so she said, "I was just introduced to your podcast, and so I listened to the first episode." And I was like, "Okay, well, you should probably also listen to the 26th one too, because it's changed a lot since episode 1." But if we tried to make it perfect and we tried to have it like, this is what we believe and this is never going to change, it probably never would have happened, you know?
It's not like that, because you're growing, you're becoming a different person every single day.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And we have power of decision. We can always make a new decision. And really, life is a string of decisions.
Right.
Right? So we are not staying in one place. And so you can't stand here and look out into the future, into infinity, because you can't see that far.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I used to get really upset when I was in grade school. Every single year, a teacher would come along and they would say, write an essay. What are you going to be when you grow up? And I was like, are you kidding? I don't know what I'm going to do tomorrow. You're asking me what I'm like,
Oh my God, that's funny.
right? We can't see that far, and there's no need to see that far, especially if you're trusting your guidance.
Mm-hmm.
You don't need to see that far down the road. In fact, all of worry and anxiety are a result of wanting to see what will happen next. When
Right.
you change that, when you say whatever happens next is going to be for me, it's going to serve me in the best possible way, then it takes away all of that worry and anxiety. Right?
Yeah.
So,
I think that's a great, I love that you brought that up, and thank you for saying that. That's such a powerful message, Zara, because I think that do you know that I remember those questions when I was in grade school, and I came up with answers because I thought that's what a good schoolboy does. He picks his career, and he even picks the type of house he lives in, and he picks the kind of car that he's going to drive one day. But I remember reaching a certain point where none of that stuff happened, and I actually allowed myself to feel bad about it. Well, I guess there's something wrong with me because I never became any of those things. You know what I'm saying? And
I
then I
do
had
know
to,
what you're saying. Yeah,
yeah. And so I
totally.
wanted to thank you because there's a great sense of freedom that comes with the ridiculousness of asking a child, what are they going to be 10, 20, 30, 40 years from now? You know, like it's ridiculous. It's a
It
completely
is.
ridiculous question to
Yes.
ask a child.
Yeah. I'll
And
figure
the
it out.
burdens, yeah,
Yeah, I
the
know, right?
burdens and the pressure that come from that, it's just it's unnecessary, really. And I see that even with my own kids. I have the urge to ask them those kinds of questions, and I have to stop myself, you know, because it's just ridiculous. How would, you know, like, and Agnes, you too, with your son and basketball, and I have a son that's obsessed with baseball, and like, you know, it, like the obvious thing to do would be like, so of course you want to play pro ball one day, like let's talk about that. Like, no, he's 8 years old and he
You let
likes
him have
playing
fun.
baseball. Like, who cares about, like, who even knows what the world is going to look like? I mean, that's kind of the fun thing about the way the world is going right now. Everything is falling apart in the most beautiful way. All of the structures are collapsing. Everything is unfolding and unraveling. So we don't need to have those conversations anymore. You know, like I was talking to my dad the other day on the phone, and he was asking about the kids, and I was like, "Oh, they're doing great," and like, you know, talking about their grades and this and that. And he's like, "So what college do you think Lily's gonna?" And I go, "Dad, by the time we get to that, there might not even be college anymore." He's like, "What are you talking about?" I'm like, "Have you been like, you know, considering the idea that artificial intelligence is like steamrolling into the scene now? Everything is changing." So it's a
Yeah.
conversation we don't really need to have right now because it's kind of a wasted breath. Let's talk about something more exciting than that because, you know, but think about how that was woven into the old paradigm. Everything was like structure, structure,
Yeah.
structure.
Yeah.
And like, of course, you need to be thinking about what your children want to do when
Yes,
they get older, because you could, in order
exactly.
to have a leg up on the competition, there's no other way but to get them starting to think about that. But the pressure that comes with that, it's just,
Well, I mean, it's crazy. Before I came to Canada, I was living in Pakistan, and the concept there was that you better get your child enrolled when they are born in the best
mm,
of schools, because if you don't, then they're completely messed up. So
mm.
their opportunities are going to be completely messed up. No, it's not like that. It's not like that.
I have a
So
proposal.
yes,
I have a proposal.
okay.
This belief, which is rooted in this humanity, right? In this, I call it the judgment.
Mm-hmm.
That judgment where it starts with politics, government, everything, where we expect, not many people expect, that the person who said 20 years ago that he is going to do, and his belief is this, that country should go and look like this. Even after 20 years, they're reminded, like, oh, you said that. How can you change? And we see this in this society. So many people like just, oh, you said this like this. Now you say this like that. And I think people, like, just let it go. That's the beauty of humanness, that we change. We, like,
Yeah,
even what I said yesterday probably is not true today. So people,
Mhm,
please accept this. Just have fun. Let us
mhm,
evolve. Let us have this. So let that judgment, that belief of that we have to be always the same, what we said, whatever, like, it's that's the beauty of human, is really that adaptiveness, that
yeah,
change,
absolutely.
evolution. that
Yes,
that's that's the new belief, but human has to finally adopt, and
yeah,
really accepting each other, and let the as I said, the future of Earth is systems, but it's not run by humans, because humans
mhm,
are tend to change all the time.
mm-hmm.
So we don't
Yeah,
need to trust humans anymore, but systems can be created that it really runs by itself, and we can enjoy being humans. That's what that's my message, like listen to you guys, it's like,
well, I
well,
think what
let's
I hear
see. I
you
mean,
saying, go
you're
ahead,
right.
go ahead, Zara.
Humanity is going, let's see where things go, because you're right. A lot is changing. We are living in very exciting times because so much is changing. I mean, think about it this way. You guys have created this amazing platform for us to have this kind of a discussion. When I first started my coaching practice, when I first started teaching law of attraction, this could not have been possible. So there's always evolution, there's always something new happening, and
Right.
more and more people are looking for answers. And I believe
Mhm,
that, ask and it is given. So if people are looking, it's coming.
right.
What you want, artists, is coming. The things that
Mhm,
we all want to see, because I believe that at our core we all want good things for ourselves as well as everyone else. And I believe that we are on our way to creating a world that lives in peace and harmony and thrives, and there's joy for everyone to be had.
mhm. But it sounds like that's not possible unless we're willing to do what you're both proposing, which is just to let it go and allow yourself to say, I don't believe that anymore. I don't think like that anymore. I don't want that anymore. Like the freedom, because that's what the new frequency is all about. It's about expansion and holding on to beliefs and holding on to the way that things used to be. That's about constriction. That's about like it's the opposite of expansion. So it
Very
would be
true.
the natural progression of how things would have to
Very
be.
true.
And I love this conversation, and I'm so glad that you are a guest here. And I think that your message is extremely powerful because I've listened to a lot of law of attraction teachers, and I've been listening to Abraham myself for a long, long time. But the thing is, the takeaway that I got from this, and there were many, but the thing that sticks out, and I want to highlight it, is that just start with where you are. Just
Mhm.
literally start with where you are and just and make it a daily practice, you know, like
Yes.
a daily practice. And you might fall off track a little bit, but that's okay. You get back on and you start over from where you were, you know, and a little bit over time is going to build momentum. And then one day you're going to be like, I don't even remember like that I was like that, you know, like my name in
Exactly.
college, and I've told this to Agris, my name was Miserable Mark in college. That was my nickname because I thought my job was to point out all the shitty things in the world so nobody would get hurt by them. And that just made me a bitter, miserable person, you know? And then I evolved into like the opposite of that, you know, teaching about, no, you can be happy if you just decide, you know, and things like that. So there's a lot of potential there. So this was an amazing conversation. I'm super grateful. So thank
Yeah,
you so much.
absolutely. Thank you for having me.
But before we let you go, tell us where people can find you, what's the new cooking going, you know, for you? Like what's the new, like is it new books coming out or anything you want? Just I'm sure people are going to look for you, so just for them to know where to find you and reshape their beliefs, and somebody who can really pay that attention, like 365 days
Yeah, that's a
a
commitment.
year, you know, it's incredible. So tell more where to find you.
My my website is Zemahoon, so ZMAHOON.com. So my first initial and my last name. And that is also my handle across all social media. So whether it's Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, wherever, TikTok, everywhere, that's my handle. So it's easy and it's the same across the board. If you visit my website, there's a free book that you can download. It's called Why Do Bad Things Happen to Good People? Because that was my, that was my biggest question, was why do bad things happen? Good people should have good stuff happening to them. That's what I was taught. But it didn't make sense when I looked around me. There were so many good people in the world who had miserable lives. And so I was looking for this information, and I started writing a blog post about it, and it became too long to be a blog post. Now it's an ebook, and you can download it on my website.
Excellent.
Beautiful. Good people came to handle more because they can, to empower others. That's what I perceived from this.
Yeah.
That's my belief. It's like, that's why I'm taking so much, you know, these good people.
Right. Oh, yeah, I have a feeling we could spin this into a whole nother podcast episode. And I think if you're willing, we'll take you up on that one day. So thank you so much.
Sounds good.
Okay.
Thank you for having me.
You have a great day.